Check out the latest digital billboard featuring Mamdani in downtown Manhattan. That's the Chamber of Commerce crowning Mamdani as Economic Developer of the Year for the state of Florida, not New York, Florida. I mean, talk about rubbing New Yorkers' noses in it. Marxist Mamdani had the unmitigated gall to challenge New York's wealthy to leave the city, and now he's finding out to his horror that they're doing just that. Wait until you see the latest disaster from this incompetent administration and why, if anything, New Yorkers haven't seen anything yet. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Let's rewind. June 2025. A 33-year-old assemblyman from Astoria sits down with Kristen Welker and gets asked the question most Democrat politicians spend a career dodging, but not the amazing Zoran.
Of the neighborhood.
All right. You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Well, let me ask you.
Yeah, I look forward to working with the people I don't think should exist. I think I'll have a very productive relationship with the people that I think should be eradicated. That is the moron, the Marxist moron that is now the mayor of the largest city in the nation. And he's proved himself to be as inept as that answer. Back on tax day, April 15th of this year, Mamdani planted himself on the sidewalk on Central Park South, right outside a penthouse hedge fund founder Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. So it's the most expensive home ever sold in the country. And Mamdani announced gleefully that he was going to fulfill his promise of taxing the rich. And he did so with what's called a pied-à-terre surcharge. It's an annual tax on non-primary residences worth over $5 million, running from 0.8% up to 6.5% a year on top of property tax already owed. It took effect July 1st, but that wasn't good enough for Mamdani. And so weeks later, Mamdani publicly published a searchable database, I kid you not, naming and listing the addresses of New York City property owners who were potentially, not even necessarily, potentially subject to the new pied-à-terre tax on non-primary luxury residences. So this database actually makes public where these people who possibly were subject to the wealthy tax live in the city. It's a typical Marxist tactic. Uniswap founder Hayden Adams called it the worst mass doxing he had ever seen, noting nearly every unit in some luxury buildings was listed. Every one, not just the tax-eligible ones. Venture investor Nick Carter warned, rightly by the way, that it mirrors patterns seen in Marxist societies where similar wealth address lists encourage the masses to go visit them and take their resentment out on them personally. But the irony was, and again, this will show you how incompetent this guy is, it didn't only list out those who were subject to the tax. There were plenty of other addresses of New York City residents who weren't subject to that tax, but they were there on the public database for all to see. In fact, City Council member Gail Brewer, a Democrat, found her own Upper West Side home on that list. She's lived there since 1994. It was a complete and total disaster, but the damage was done. Once a list like that exists, everyone on it has to decide whether they want to prove they live there in the city full time and are not subject to that tax, or whether, you know what, maybe we're done with this city and maybe we should just go and live somewhere else. Well, that somewhere else has a name. Florida. They're calling it the Mamdani effect, and it's real. Relocation attorneys in the state of Florida, they're reporting an unprecedented surge in inquiries. Corporate filings data obtained by Florida news outlets revealed that multiple New York companies filed relocation paperwork just weeks following the election when Mamdani won. All told, New York has lost between roughly $10 billion and $14 billion annually in tax revenue due to wealthy residents relocating to lower tax states, primarily Florida. A National Taxpayers Union Foundation report pegs the figure at $12.2 billion per year, while the Citizens Budget Commission estimates $10.7 billion, tied to New York's millionaire share dropping from 12.7% in 2010 to now just 8.7%. That's the steepest decline nationally of any state. IRS migration data shows $14.1 billion in adjusted gross income has left the state due to residents leaving, with $9.5 billion of that tax revenue moving to Florida. So cumulatively, New York has lost an astonishing $111 billion in net income to interstate migration over the past decade, the worst of any state in the union. So this has been happening for some time now, and Mamdani is just throwing oil on the fire. And now, if you can believe it, New York officials are openly begging those millionaires and billionaires, the very billionaires that Mamdani thinks should not exist, they are openly begging them to please come back. But first, gang, one of the most frequent questions I get asked by our audience is this. Maybe you wanted to ask this. Dr. Steve, is now really the right time to buy gold? Right? It's a fair question. Gold has had a tremendous run. Silver has been moving higher and higher. So naturally, people wonder, so did I miss it? Is it too late? But I actually think that's the wrong way of looking at it. The real question isn't whether gold has already gone up. Obviously, it has. The real question is whether the reasons for owning it have changed. I mean, think about where we are today. Central banks continue buying gold at record levels all over the world. Global debt continues to explode. Geopolitical tensions aren't going away. These are the very trends that we've been talking about on this channel for years. And if those trends haven't changed, then why would the case for owning physical gold and silver? So that's why more and more people are taking a closer look, not because they're chasing price, but because they're responding to what's happening in the world. Some are purchasing physical gold and silver directly. Others are moving a portion of an IRA or 401k into a gold IRA as part of their long-term wealth protection strategy. That's one reason why I trust Augusta Precious Metals. What I appreciate is that they don't try to convince you to buy anything. They start by helping you understand your options. They'll explain how purchasing physical gold or silver works, show you how a gold IRA works if you're using retirement funds, answer your questions, and then let you decide whether it's right for your situation. So if you'd like to learn more, go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052 and request Augusta's free guide. Because in my view, the question isn't whether gold has already moved, it's whether the reasons for owning it have changed. And from where I sit, they haven't. Click on that link below right now. Back in March, New York Governor Kathy Hochul took the stage at a Politico summit in Albany, and she openly admitted out loud on record that her state no longer has the high net worth residents it needs to pay for all the generous social programs that Democrats have absolutely no problem promising their constituents. And she reportedly made a direct ask of all the wealthy donors in that room. She said, quote, "Maybe the first step should be for all of you to go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been completely eroded." She literally was begging her donors to go and beg those countless millionaires who left their states to come back. If that is not an admission of a total failure in governance, I frankly don't know what it... Can you imagine Ron DeSantis having to do... Of course not. Or Greg Abbott having to do that. And it's not just New York. Or shouldn't even say it's not just the New York government doing the begging. A fellow by the name of Andrew Murstein, founder of Medallion Financial, launched something called Operation Boomerang. I kid you not. He just launched it this spring. He's putting up $1 million of his own money with a plan to leverage up to 20 or 30 million, shipping New York bagels, hot dogs, and deli pastrami down to the companies that left New York, trying to talk them back home. He said, I'm trying to convince them not to abandon ship, whatever it takes. So he's literally sending them little trinkets of home. Say, come on, doesn't that pastrami smell so great? Well, you can, you have it on the corner everywhere you go here. Yeah, good luck. I'm sure every single one of those millionaires and billionaires told these New Yorkers where they could stick it, especially with Marxist Mamdani in office. Now, you ready for the ultimate irony of all of this? That pied-à-terre tax that's caused so much controversy, that so many of New York's rich are fleeing, it just got struck down. More accurate. In fairness, it's been blocked temporarily by a lower court judge. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Staten Island judge Wayne Ozzie, he issued a temporary restraining order after 3 homeowners sued the city. The suit argued that the Department of Finance skipped legally required individualized property determinations before mailing notices, unfairly shifted the burden onto roughly 17,000 owners to prove they weren't liable, and improperly published a public database naming nearly 960,000 properties. Remember, most of the people on that published data list didn't even have to pay the tax. And then that caused mass confusion among longtime primary residents wrongly flagged. And the judge agreed with all 3 of those points. So Mamdani just ran into the wall of reality that the New York legal system isn't necessarily going to cooperate with all of his socialist absurdities. But alas, it does appear that the damage has already been done. Once you leave the city, you're not coming back. The city is suffering under a mayor who ran on eliminating billionaires, taxing the ones who stayed, while his own government is quietly trying to recruit the ones who already left back. That's not a tax policy with a messaging problem. That's a socialist experiment that even its own architects don't seem to believe will work. Because if you actually believe taxing the wealthy out of your city was the right call, you wouldn't need to mail invitations begging them to come back weeks later, sending them pounds of pastrami. Please. More and more New Yorkers are already suffering from buyer's remorse. Unfortunately for them, I think that remorse is just getting started.